Okay. I'm going to back up a drop, and let me give you a little warning. Let me give you a little bit of an introduction to what we're doing over here. Okay, we're learning Mesilas Yeshirim. Mesilas Yeshirim was a sefer of Musar that was written by the Ramchal. Ramchal stands for Rabbi Moshe Chaim Litzato, and the Ramchal was an unbelievable mikubel. His knowledge of Kabbalah was through the roof. But the Mesilas Yeshirim is not a Kabbalah sefer. The Mesilas Yeshirim is a sefer of Musar, but it's built on all the foundations of the secrets of the Torah. So it's a very, 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 very holy sefer. But it's a sefer of Hadracha. It's a sefer of guiding us through life. Many, many people start Mesilas Yeshirim. Very few people finish Mesilas Yeshirim. Okay? It's one of those things like Mishnah Berurah that you start several times over your years at yeshiva. And one of the reasons why every time someone sits down to Mesilas Yeshirim, they start from the beginning, is because the truth is that the Mesilas Yeshirim is a ladder of growth. And as a ladder of growth, it feels silly to start from, let's say we're going to be talking about Chasidus, which is much higher up on the ladder, and you feel like, have we really even hit the first rung on the ladder? So that's why it makes people uncomfortable to go further on, and at a certain point they just feel like, okay, forget it, like, I haven't even done the first level, like you were talking about how hard Musar is, I haven't even done the first level, I'm going to go on to the second, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth. But the reality is that there's a tremendous, tremendous benefit to learning even the end of Mesilas Yeshirim, and for two reasons. Number one, let's say the person being described by this parak is not us, certainly not me. Okay? I'm not a chassid. Chassid doesn't mean someone with long payas. Chassid is a certain level of avodas Hashem. And I'm not up to that level. But isn't the engine that will push me forward in serving Hashem, isn't that engine the desire to get there? Isn't that what pushes anyone in life, is that they want to get there? They want to reach greater heights, they want to accomplish more. So I look at learning these parakim like sightseeing. I want to see what big people look like. You ever hang out with a big Talmid Chacham, with someone really big, and it's not like you think you're his pal, it's not like you think you're the same, but you just feel like there's so much to grow from just seeing what a person like that is like. Right? Does that make sense? So when we learn the later stages of Mesilas Yeshirim, we're exposed to a certain level of greatness, and it opens our mind to it. And just as a side point with that, just important to know, it's important to recognize that there's a tremendous misconception in the world. Wow, you're not going to believe what you showed up for. There's a tremendous misconception in the world that people think that the higher and higher and higher you go in avodas Hashem, the more and more and more intense you are, the more serious you are, the more severe you are, because you're on a really, really high level. It's absolutely false. It's certainly true that the higher you go, the more you're attaining, there's more going on in your mind and in your heart. Tremendous things happen as you grow. But if you know really big people, they're the most relaxed. Isn't it true? Really big people are smiling. Really big people feel an inner sense of joy. That's what's really going on inside. The Chazon Ish, for example. The Chazon Ish is associated with a massive level of intensity. When you say Chazon Ish to someone, they're like, I don't know, that might be too much. Everyone knows that the chumras of the Chazon Ish, right? The Chazon Ish was very machmir in halacha. The Chazon Ish showed up in Bnei Brak many, many years ago, before Bnei Brak existed. Okay, it was a little village, there was nothing there. He came from Vilna, and he was such a masmid that he was a young man, he had already printed Svarim that were world-renowned, the Chazon Ish. Nobody knew who wrote them. If you look in the Chazon Ish, it doesn't say who the author is. He wrote them Be'ilum Shem. He wrote them anonymously, and everyone was talking about this Sefer, okay? He worked very hard in his learning. He worked so hard. I don't know if these stories are true, but they don't say these stories about me, okay? They say about the Chazon Ish that he would learn and learn and learn and learn and learn until he ran out of energy, and he would collapse. And he would try to measure it that he made it to his bed in time so that he could collapse in bed. But sometimes he misjudged how much energy he had, so he would collapse while he was walking to his bed and be like, I misjudged. Okay? That sometimes the Chazon Ish quotes a Sefer, and he says, Ein ha-Sefer tachas yadi. I don't have the Sefer with me. They say that there are times that the Sefer was in the bookshelf, but he was writing with the last bits of energy. The Sefer wasn't with him. He wasn't able to go to the bookshelf. He had no strength left. Okay? That's the Chazon Ish. Okay? You're imagining this guy is just like serious, severe, strict, stay out of his way. That's what you're imagining when I tell you these stories. Be honest. Right? When I tell you these stories, you're not imagining someone who smiles. I challenge you to find a picture of the Chazon Ish that he's not smiling. Okay? It's not like this massive laughing smile, but if you look at his face, you'll see this guy's in a good mood. He's chilling. It's an amazing thing, because someone that truly grows lives his life with a certain sense of accomplishment and excitement about, look what we could do, look who we are. You know, you're sitting in a Beis Medrash at the beginning of Elul. Don't waste your time allowing yourself to feel intense. If there's intensity, it should make you laugh. I don't mean laugh because something funny is happening. I mean laugh. You ever get so happy? Has it ever happened to you that you got so happy that you laughed? Maybe you're too young to have gotten that happy. Maybe you have to be married to be that happy, or to hold a newborn baby in your hand to be that happy. But there's such a thing as being so happy that you just start laughing. It's a tzchaik, it's a laughter that comes from simcha. That's how we should feel. Like the whole world is, we're holding, I think, maybe between 7 and 8 billion people in the world, something like that. Of those 7 or 8 billion people, how many of them even know that Hashem exists to serve Him? Okay, a small percentage. And of the small percentage that knows that Hashem exists, how many have the zchus to be in Hashem's inner sanctum, in a Beis Medrash? It's the closest place. We don't have a Kodesh Kadashim today. The closest place we have to Hashem is the Beis Medrash. And if you're thinking that the closest place to Hashem is Eretz Yisrael, you're not wrong. The Gemara says that the Batei Midrashas of Galus are going, when Mashiach comes, are going to be transported to Eretz Yisrael. And the reason for that is because being in a Beis Medrash is close to Hashem, and being in Eretz Yisrael is close to Hashem. We're a little bit in Eretz Yisrael here in the Beis Medrash. It's something to feel joyful about, and that's what I love learning about the higher levels, because you get to experience that it's not about intensity. It's about joy. Now, there could be a tremendous intensity in the joy, but it's about joy. Think of big tzaddikim that you've met. Sometimes they keep their joy more hidden, and sometimes it's more revealed. That's the truth. But there's always joy. They're always just so excited. So that's one reason. The other reason that I like to learn even the later prakim of Mesilas Yeshirim, over this manim of being here, we got up to Perek Yutes, is because we've gotten good at, around this table, picking out tidbits within the Musar to the Chassid, we're not Chassidim, but things that are relevant to our lives. And that's something that we could do. We could learn how to mine, like trying to pull the gold out of the mountain. we could mine even the later Prakim of Mesilas Yeshirim, and we could find things that will change the way we learn, the way we daven, the way we interact with our families, the way we deal with the challenges of the outside world. And we could use a little of that. And if we just keep reviewing the first parak and never going further, we're going to be depriving ourselves of all of that information and all of that chizuk. And that's why what I like to do, I go through Mesilas Yeshirim until the end. Many years ago in Waterbury, I gave a Mesilas Yeshirim shir, and it went on for like 2 or 3 years. When we got to the end of the Sefer, I went to the Rosh Yeshiva, and I said, I'm making a yeshiva-wide siyum on the Sefer. We're inviting the whole yeshiva, just like someone finished Shas. I want the Olam to realize there's such a thing as finishing Mesilas Yeshirim. I believe neder, when we get to the end of Mesilas Yeshirim here, we're not that far away, I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to make a party, because finishing Mesilas Yeshirim should be part of our lives. I had the schus to finish with Chevra. I had the schus to finish a couple of times. It's life-changing. The last page of Mesilas Yeshirim has so much to teach you. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Okay, so that's Amir Hashem. We're in the middle of learning about Chasidus. I'm going to tell you what Chasidus is, and then we'll call it a day, and we'll continue Amir Hashem on Wednesday. There's certain levels of growth in Avodas Hashem where I'm careful not to do anything wrong, and I'm energetic. I'm energetic about trying to do what's right. And then there's a higher level where I separate myself from anything that could take me in the wrong direction, and I apply myself to making sure that there's nothing in my life that even has a little bit of a drip of something that Hashem wouldn't want. But at a certain point in my Avodas Hashem, it's not about right and wrong anymore. That I've taken care of. At a certain point, it's about being in love. I'm so in love with Hashem. We have such a bond, such an intimacy, that it's not about what do I have to do. It's about what do I want to do. You know, imagine, I was on the phone with someone this morning. He told me that he was talking to his 13-year-old son, and he said to him, come, let's go for a walk. And apparently this son is not used to hearing that from his father. So his son was like, why? You know, sometimes your father says, let's go for a walk. You think you're in trouble, you know? Why? He's like, no, I just want to talk to you about something. He's like, Dad, am I dying? I promise you. He's like, no, you're not dying. I just want to talk to you about something. But think about it. If you tell your son, let's go for a walk, and he says, do I have to? What do you do now? You don't want to say, is that a walk? Yes, you have to. What kind of walk is that? Is that a fun walk? That's like, wow, I really had an enjoyable walk with my son. I told him that I'll kill him if he doesn't do it, so he came along. What kind of walk is that? You want, all of you want, and my bracha to all of you, is that when you tell your son or your daughter, let's go for a walk, they're like, let's do it. That's what you want, right? You want your children to be like, my father wants to go for a walk with me, I'm going. That's what Chasidus is. Chasidus is, I'm not trying to ask Hashem, do I have to? Chasidus is, I'm in love with God, and I want to do the right thing. I want to do more than the right thing. I want to do the things that will give Hashem nachas, even if I don't have to. But I just want to give Him nachas. I want Hashem to feel my love for Him. That's Chasidus, and there's different parts of Chasidus. We are Be'ezer Hashem going to talk about the part of Chasidus that's called Dveikus, which is attaching oneself to Hashem. And in particular, the place that we're going to start is the second aspect of Dveikus, which is joy, Simcha, and how to implement Simcha in serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And B'li Neder will start that journey on Wednesday.